Good day to everyone. I'm Sharan and I will be your moderator for today's webinar. On behalf of Beroe, I would like to welcome you all for today's webinar from our Beroe Insights. So in today's webinar, we will have our presenter discuss and analyze how a procurement professional could effectively manage the procurement of or sourcing of titanium dioxide and the related cost, hence being able to achieve the desired cost savings. So before we move ahead with the presentation, I have some general set of instructions as always. Please note all the attendees will be placed on mute. During the course of the presentation, if you would like to post a question, you will find a box on the right-hand side, which is indicated in red in the slide that you're actually seeing. I request you to type your question and hit the send button. And as the presentation progresses, I will ensure to take a note of the high frequency questions. And depending on the time, I will post it to the presenter during the end of the presentation. If you're experiencing any connection issues, I request you to close the window, go back to the link that has been sent across to you and try connecting back to the webinar. But if there's a problem that you still face in issue with connecting to the webinar, I would request you to drop on a quick email to Puneet at puneet.ramal@beroe-inc.com, and you will also find this email in the invite that has been sent across to you. So moving on, let me quickly introduce you to the speaker for today. It's Vaishnavi Jayaraman. Vaishnavi is an industrial pigment expert at Beroe. Her extensive knowledge and expertise in the category, including titanium dioxide and printing inks, has helped her in addressing client-specific markets and requirements and also procurement intelligence queries. Her article on titanium dioxide was recently published in an international magazine and was voted as the top 20 ASI features of 2013. It just got in there. In addition, her another article on TiO2 featured as the cover story in the official journal of Indian Chemical Council. So Vaishnavi will be presenting you today on the topic that's on titanium dioxide. And with further ado, I will pass on the mic to Vaishnavi and we'll start with the presentation. Vaishnavi.
Thank you, Sharan, and good day, everyone. This is Vaishnavi Jayaraman, and today I will present and discuss key negotiation levers in TiO2 sourcing by providing some insights into the costing and related profitability in sourcing titanium dioxide. Please note, from here on, I would refer to titanium dioxide as TiO2. Let me start by talking about the one thing that connects each of us here in this forum, TiO2. It can almost be referred to as the queen of pigments. With a current estimated demand of approximately 6.3 million metric tons, it holds a prime and a critical position in the overall pigments market. Maybe because of its criticality, aspects relating to costing, pricing have always been hid or never been made transparent to the buyer segment. Having conversed with many buyers in the market, I can conclusively state that these aspects of costing, profitability continues to lie in a gray area. So, as procurement professionals, I'm sure one must be constantly looking for an opportunity to position oneself stronger in the market with respect to sourcing this very critical commodity. Please hold on to your thoughts as I discuss the agenda to tell you what insight this presentation will provide. The objective of this webinar is threefold. First, I would address why there has been a substantial gap between the estimated and actual cost savings in TiO2 procurement, and how this gap between estimated and actual cost savings can be bridged. Moving on, I will touch upon how knowledge on detailed costing aspects will help you leverage during contract negotiations. And finally, I will talk on when is the right time, or is it the right time for you to take lead during negotiations. If we observe the price trend of titanium dioxide, the red being the international prices, and when I say international, prices that is seen in the US and Europe, across Europe, they've always been high, and green being LCCS, which is low cost country, the prices have somewhat different. So until early 2012, the prices were on a comparable scale, but it was only after early 2012 there was a steep drop in pricing in the LCCS countries. So this point was a trigger point. It resulted in many category managers who would ideally be evaluating the LCCS as an option for sourcing this critical pigment. With this situation in the backdrop, let us visualize a category manager who would have idly done while evaluating the low-cost countries. I would take a case study of a category manager of a paints and coatings company who has a significant savings target to achieve. So his initial spend being this, he estimates by shifting base, he would be able to substantially save. And when I say substantial, it is a 15% saving on your annual procurement budget. Wow, isn't that not impressive? And by 15%, by value, it is $42 million. Just when the category manager thought that he had achieved it, he realized that it is a mirage, and the reality was actually very, very different. The reality was that while he estimated to save $42 million, he was actually able to save only $18 million. So, why do you think that happened? What are the reasons behind a huge gap between what you've estimated and what was the actual? Let us take a couple of minutes to reason that out. For that, we will go into the procurement procedure that is adopted across many buyers when they source from the low-cost countries. First, a sample is requested. And when I say sample, it's about 500 grams to 1 kg. It is sent to the buyer's end, where a lab trial of the sample is done. Once the lab trial is okay, where about 15 technical parameters are tested, a plant trial is requested by the buyer. And in the plant trial, it's about 22 metric tons of procurement, and it reaches the plant, and the buyer uses the titanium dioxide to run in his plant, and then finally he places the order. Till about this, the process is very smooth. There is no hiccup in the procurement, but this is where the problem will arise. While the supply contracts and prices are negotiable with the low-cost players, it has never been possible to alter the payment terms. I repeat, buyers have never been able to negotiate or make changes in the payment terms. Thus, a category manager, once he receives the bill of lading from the supplier, And when I say bill of lading, it's a document that says your order has been laden on the ship for shipment. The category manager will have to make 100% wire transfer. So where is the problem? The shipment arrives at the buyer's end. It's only now that they realize that only 40% is in conformance to the buyer specification. And when I say conformance to buyer specification, it is not just the technical parameters, but is also related to aspects such as weight or packaging. So, in the shipment that has arrived, 40% is in conformance. 40% is just usable without great loss in the final product quality. And 20% is absolutely unusable. So during one of the conversations with the buyers, and when I say these numbers like 40%, it is taken as an average after conversing with many buyers who've had such an experience and also agreed upon by many industry experts. So when I was having a conversation with one of the buyers, I asked, why do you source from low cost when you know that the quality is not as what was expected? There's only one answer. The prices are just too attractive. I wanted to save 42. I'm still saving 18 when I source from here. So what do? They ask me. Is there a solution? Yes, there is. There is an actionable, pragmatic solution that can be adopted, and we look at that. As a first step, a technical person can be stationed at the supplier's plant site. The purpose of this technical person would be to monitor aspects related to prepaid TiO2 procurement. He oversees the technical parameters. He oversees that the weight is in conformance, the packaging quality is good, and finally, he issues a certificate. That certificate is actually the conformance to quality certificate, and another certificate, which is the certificate of lading, where your technical person tells you that the quality is good and it has been laden on the ship for shipment. It is only after this the payment has released. At this juncture, I'm sure that all of you have a question. Now, as a buyer, do I need to spend for this procedure? Yes, of course. Nothing comes for free. A cost of approximately $20,000 is what one needs to spend in order to implement the above steps. So the next question is, will spending this $20,000 make any difference, or will it really help me achieve better savings? Let us see how it will make a difference. We all know that the category manager estimated to save 42 could save only 18. But by implementing this approach, one could see that the potential savings is moving closer to what was estimated. Now, having achieved the target, the category manager is extremely happy that he has saved what he wanted to save. This will definitely result in the management being very happy with what has been done. But don't the management always have appetite for more? With this, the category manager can expect another question just on the way. And the question from the management would be, can you save more? So the category manager actually needs to think, can you save more? I will go on to say, yes. Yes, there is an opportunity. There is a room for procurement managers to save more on costs. And the key to achieve more is the need for one to have the knowledge on costing. When I say knowledge, let us look at what knowledge is currently available to us. If we analyze the composition of the cost structure of titanium dioxide, the contribution of feedstock was about 27% in the past. It grew, and the total cost of production and the feedstock contribution is about 44% now in recent times. Let alone the feedstock cost, the overall cost of production has increased by 50%. I would like to, I'm pretty sure that most of your suppliers would have told you raw material prices have escalated, so overall cost of production of TiO2 has gone up, so I am increasing the titanium dioxide prices. I can practically visualize all of you agree in unison that you've been told this a million times by your suppliers. The biggest challenge is, while we all agree that costs have increased, to what extent remains a myth. Therefore, while generic cost structure is available to all of us, we are all aware of the generic cost structure, the biggest challenge that I see for procurement managers is the lack of knowledge on detailed and specific costing and profitability details, and eventually with this lack of knowledge, there is lower negotiation power with the suppliers. Therefore, in the following section, I would compare what is known, which is the generic cost structure, versus the unknown, which is the region-specific cost structure. This comparison will highlight two key things. First, in green is that cost aspect in the region that buyers should focus on during negotiation. These would be the aspects that the regional players will enjoy, and hence, as buyers, should definitely capitalize during negotiation. The comparison will also highlight those cost aspects which are high and therefore to be avoided during negotiation. On that, let us first target China. On the left-hand side is the generic cost structure, while what you see right now is the cost structure for a high-quality TiO2, and what you see right now is for the low-quality TiO2 from China. We all see that the process followed is sulfate production process. By seeing this cost structure, what strikes immediately is the huge advantage that these suppliers have in terms of feedstock. While category managers thought that feedstock contributed to only 45%, in China, the suppliers, their cost is only about 28%. And this 28% is only for the high quality. For the low quality, it is even lower. It's only 14%. There are some aspects which are high too, which is the utility cost and the process chemical cost. Nevertheless, the supplier in China enjoys a 20 to 30% cost advantage. And I say 20 to 30% cost advantage on a per metric ton basis. Therefore, your negotiation lever for a supplier in China is feedstock cost. This is the point that buyers should capitalize during negotiation. Let us move on to North America. Once again, you see the generic cost structure, which is known, while now what appears is the specific cost structure for a high blend and a low blend TiO2 cost structure in North America. The positive attributes are utility costs and process chemical costs, while clearly what a supplier does not focus on is the feedstock cost, which is 57% and 54%. I would like to share why the feedstock costs are high and why when the category managers approach negotiation, you do not focus on feedstock cost. For one, the process that is followed is the chloride process. And the biggest players in the market, which are DuPont, Crystal Global, Tronox, Kronos, Huntsman, all have monopoly in technology of this chloride process. So it becomes very hard for a buyer to negotiate on feedstock costs. However, there is a silver lining to the dark clouds, and that is the recent DuPont spin-off. DuPont, as we all are aware, is the biggest player in the market, and DuPont has decided to come off the TiO2 business. This announcement has caused a lot of market imbalance, This is where, as buyers, we should capitalize on the utilities and the process chemical costs, which are lower in North America, because the suppliers will be keen to grab the market share that is going to be available to them. So as buyers, we use utilities and process chemicals as key negotiation levers in North America. Let's move on to Europe. It's by far the most mature market, and we will see in the cost structure as to why the prices are always high in the European region. Well, the highest cost of production comes from Europe. The aspects which are in favor of this region are once again the utility costs and the process chemical costs, whereas the feedstock costs are massive. While the generic cost structure is 45, a feedstock cost is 61% and 54%. So, as a buyer, if you were to negotiate on feedstock cost, it would not take the buyer anywhere during negotiation. So, once again, what needs to be focused on is the utility cost. And when I say utility, the costs associated are process water, demineralized water, steam costs, which are surprisingly lower in the Western European region, and which is why, as buyers, you should negotiate on utilities and process chemical costs. While knowing the cost aspects is great, it's great to know and negotiate. Which buyer would not want to know the profitability aspect? Here, when I say plant profitability, it is region specific and capacity specific. We will go into the plant profitability only so that during negotiation, the buyer has a much more confident approach during negotiation. Let us look at North America. There are three sections of players. When I say three sections of players, they are categorized based on plant capacity. One, plant capacity being high, which is a large player. One, a medium player with a medium capacity, and a small player with a low capacity. If you observe on the third row of this, the profitability index of a large player is 55%. It's 55% for a large player, whereas for a small player, it's about 10%. Now, is it not a general practice for buyers to go to these small players, negotiate with these small players, get a leeway from them? We will get a leeway or a discount in layman terms, but we would only get a small extent because at the end of the day, his profitability index is only 10%. However, what we have not been doing so far is negotiating with these big players because we didn't know that their index was a massive 55%. So, if a buyer were to go and tell a large player, I know your profitability index is 55%, so give me a leeway in it, wouldn't the negotiation be more confident and stronger? Similarly, in Europe, also a high or a large player would enjoy a 49% index, profitability index, while a small medium player would enjoy only about 28. So you know now where to go talk based on your requirement, on the buyer's requirement. Also, as an APAC, a medium player enjoys an index of 42%, whereas a small player would enjoy only about 20%. Therefore, with buyer's requirement, regional requirement, the buyer could assess the plant location and plant capacity and use this knowledge on profitability index to their advantage. Now, this juncture, I would like to share what is the use of all this knowledge. What is the use of all this knowledge if the buyer does not know when to implement it? Is it the right time? Is it the right time for a buyer to use this knowledge and go ahead and speak with the supplier? Let us see that in the final segment. If you look at the trend of titanium dioxide pricing, from 2011 to 2012, the prices had a massive increase. The increase was so steep, it's 28%. But from 2012 to 2013, the pricing trend can almost be referred to as stable. There was only a 4% increase. In fact, I'm sure we all are aware that in 2013, there were 3 price increase announcements. But not even one was implemented. So the suppliers thought, 2014 is going to be the year I am definitely going to implement that price increase. But what happened in 2014? It actually started on a decline trend. There has actually been a decrease of 8% in 2014. January, February, March, and now April, there's been a decline of 8% in prices. In fact, at a recent coatings conference at Atlanta, just a few weeks ago, most of the suppliers were talking about the market being extremely slow, the market being extremely weak, the buyers having severe resistance. Therefore, there is no strong opinion of the market recovering immediately. There is no strong opinion that it is going to recover. So, don't you think it is the buyer's market? Of course it is. It is the buyer's market. Therefore, to conclude, I would say that the current scenario is clearly a buyer's market. And on that note, I will take some time to summarize the key takeaway from each section of the webinar. First, invest pragmatically to ensure that your savings are in line with your estimations. Please relate to the $20,000 investment that you do to ensure that your savings are in line with what you estimate. Second, acquire the knowledge. Use the acquired knowledge on detailed costing aspects to gain the upper hand during negotiation. Take the lead. Take the lead during negotiation, where I spoke of what negotiation levers to use and to which region you use what. And finally, we saw the pricing dip. We saw the prices dip now. So play the current market scenario to your advantage. It is clearly a buyer's market, and therefore the category managers should take lead in the negotiation and play to their advantage. And on that note, I sign off by saying leverage, costing, profitability, knowledge now. Thank you.
Thank you, Vaishnavi. I think it's very well summarized in the last as to what are the key negotiation levers that one should look for, and how costing and profitability are equally important for us when it comes to this particular titanium dioxide. So this ends the presentation from our presenter. But however, we have a couple of questions from our audience, and I will just take on one after the other to our presenter today. To start off with, Vaishnavi, this is from one of our audience in reference to slide number 5, wherein you had mentioned about the international as well as the low-cost country prices. So the question here is there an approximate price difference that you could reference to?
To answer your question, thank you for the question. The price differences between international and low-cost countries would differ based on the grades. There are 2 grades. One is anatase and one is rutile. So typically, if I take 2013 average, I could say that the anatase grade, the difference between an international anatase grade and a low-cost country anatase grade would be typically $900 per metric ton. And when I talk about rutile, it would be slightly lower, say about $800 per metric ton. This is the difference that we're talking in terms of international and low-cost players.
Thank you, Vaishnavi. I think that did give us a range that you were referring to in terms of the approximate prices. Thanks for that. So the next question that we have is related to the cost structure that was referred to in terms of the trend and the timeline, where you had differentiated between the past and the recent. So to get more understanding, will it be possible for you to give us an ideal range or a timeline? How different is it, and how the shift has been working around?
Sure, Sharon. So in that slide of the cost structure, when I referred to the timeline as past, it is actually not two-way in the past. Past, when I say, is 2008. So 2008, the ilmenite price was about, I think, $45 to $50 per metric ton. And when I say recent, it's about mid-2013, where, in fact, if you see the trend which is moving, ilmenite was 45 in 2008, moved to about $70 to $90 per metric ton in 2010. 2011, it came to $130 per metric ton, which is still fine. But in 2012, it went to a $315 to $330 per metric ton, which has resulted. So the timeline to answer the question is from 2008 to mid-2013.
Thanks for that inputs, Vaishnavi. I think that would have given an insight into the timeline and the trend. So we have one last question from our audience. This is more in terms of the solutions that you provided in terms of how one should look at in stationing a particular technical person at the supply side. So just wanted to understand, since you've been tracking the market and you've been interacting with people around, so has there been any instances or examples wherein buyers or companies have tried adopting this particular process step?
Thank you for that last question. It's very interesting indeed, because stationing a technical person and having him do all of the checking for you is a very practical approach. But to my knowledge, until mid-2013, nobody has done it till about mid-2013. But when the market, I think, started swinging very badly, to my knowledge, I think there is one paints and coatings player that has initiated it. And in fact, I came to know of this from both the paints and coatings company, the category manager that I speak with, and the Chinese supplier confirmed that he had got a request regarding this, and he was almost okay for an agreement. This is where this solution stands as of 2013.
Thanks, Vaishnavi. Thanks for that answer. And I think from this we understand that there is, a possibility, or probably this solution is slowly gaining traction amongst buyers of titanium dioxide. So I think we expect more to come in the coming years with the shift that's happening in the market. Thanks a lot, Vaishnavi. So this wraps up the presentation and the question and answer session. So if you have any other questions, feel free to drop a mail to Puneet, and we will be more than happy to address those questions through an email. So thank you all. Thanks, Vaishnavi. Thanks for a lovely presentation, and thanks one and all for being part of today's webinar. It was nice having you here today. You have a great day, and we sign off until we meet you next time in the next Beroe webinar. Thank you and have a great day. Bye for now.